All right.
Right. Hi, we're at Comic-Con in Salt Lake City. It actually got, we get little voices like this, but it got extended for an extra hour, and people cheered. I haven't had much of a time to actually look around. This is the Unibrow Comics booth right now. This is the one that Kevin Horn has set up. And for all of its years. And this artist is really interesting. He goes everywhere. But he's got his own work, and he said that he actually, maybe he'll like talk to us. We're live streaming on my live stream show on Freedom of Joyce. Do you mind like telling a little bit about you were explaining you go to like 222
2,200 events I've done in 14 years, yeah. I think. I've lost count. I just add a few hundred a year and go from there.
And so these are some of your pieces that you have. And can we film them, or do you mind if people look at them?
Yeah, please, definitely.
Okay. And so, this is amazing.
Wow.
I mean, just...
Art.
And some of them have like a World War II kind of thing.
Yeah, I do a lot of World War II stuff. I do a lot of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas stuff.
I love Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Hunter and Ralph are my favorite people, and my buddy and I who do the art, and then my other friend Rich is a writer, like carry on the Gonzo tradition as much as we can. And, you know, I think IDW just bought the rights, so I'm trying to get people to write in and be like, hey, make this guy the Fear and Loathing dude. I've sent him a bunch of art and whatnot, so.
The Gonzo tradition, I've never heard it referred to that way.
The Gonzo is a style of journalism that he did. There was another journalist, I think, that termed him that in the 70s and said you're a Gonzo journalist. So if you see like, sometimes you'll see the fist, which was his logo with the peyote disc, and it'll say Gonzo underneath.
Oh.
But that's the style that he, you know, Gonzo journalism, Gonzo art.
I love the past blue ribbon right here.
Yes.
Which is always a wonderful
They're one of our
treat there.
sponsors, so
of
we do
course,
work with. Well, I'm a third generation drinker of it. But we met the rep in Oakland and San Francisco, and we hang out with them, and we do parties with them, and they bring the beer, we bring the art. It's a great recipe, and, you know, you can't go wrong.
That's nice.
And I like it. It's compared to Bud or shit beer. I mean, that's the top of the shit beer. You know?
Are you online? Can someone order your stuff online?
Yeah,
What's your
it's
website?
Facebook / Sean Dietrich or industriouside.com. But Sean Dietrich, spelled Diet Rich Dietrich, just do a search. I think I'm #1 on Google. I'm not the Christian rock guy, so that's all you need to know.
Not the Christian
He's
rock
not
guy.
the Christian rock guy.
Yeah.
There's a blonde, stringy haired dude with an acoustic. That's not me.
Okay.
I walked in, I sat down, I put my head in a pillow. Next thing you know, I got myself a massage. I didn't get to meet anybody famous, but I got a massage at Comic-Con. Salt Lake City, 2012. I need a T-shirt. 13. 13. Fuck it. Whatever year it is. No, he got pissy about it. But...
Well, he got pissy when you asked if you could hold his dick.
Did I say that? I forgot about that part. Alright, I am actually, I'm broadcasting on my, on Freedom of Joyce. This is Tere Joyce. Do you mind, like, filming, if I give this to you?
Yeah.
Hi, this is, I've been, all day I've been at the Comic-Con, you know, in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I've seen some very interesting, costumes, today. One thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is that I've seen a lot of Mad Camel Toe. I didn't think Mad Camel Toe actually really existed, but I've seen it for the first time. You know, I mean, a lot of Mad Camel Toe. If you want to see a lot of Mad Camel Toe and what it's like, I'm going to try to sneak some footage sometime this weekend to show you some examples.
You had signs like Brigham Young. There were people, you know, I don't know if you guys know anything about history, but these aren't Mormons. These are Masons.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
are Masons. These are people
So
who
is
built
Joseph
stuff.
Smith.
There was no
which I
golden
hadn't
plate that hit him in the
realized.
head. I think that's a crossbeam that came down from the fucking whatever building they were, you know. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like Walmart, watch for falling prices. No, that was a crossbeam. That's what, you know, Joseph Smith didn't come up with the golden plate. He came up with the hard hat. That's why the guy who's in charge wears the blue one. I don't know if that's even true. I think it's the white hat.
It's the white hat.
It's the white hat. Well, if they were smart, it'd be the gold one.
And we were getting ready to walk towards the convention center, and there was the Mormon church with the little gold guy on top of it, and then right next to it you look at another area up above it, and there's a building that actually obviously has a pyramid on top of it, and that's when I got out of I was like, oh shit, oh my god, I didn't realize this, and that's when I started to put two and two together that there was possibly a combination between the religion and Freemason. Are we still on?
Yes, we are.
All right, so we're just going to follow around because I've been Hi, we are in an RV right now. You saw something that had no sound to it, and I don't even know if anybody's even listening right now. But I'm Tere Joyce, and this is my channel, Freedom of Joyce. We're doing a live Ustream here in an RV, which is our sponsor, who is by which company?
Rent RV LLC. Come see Blazer Bruce today and rent an RV.
Right. So
Blazer Bruce.
So and this is Kevin Korn, and this is Alex Norphblat. Norphblat, is that correct?
Norphblat. It's close enough.
Norphblat. But it's on his Facebook page. So if you, I'm totally outing you, but find him on Facebook, Norphblat. I am Tere Joyce. We are doing, this is our first series. We're starting a show called Trips. And it's about us all together doing a show, doing a project, and filming our entire trip and the experience that we have behind the scenes, as well as like what we're doing. And we just recently took a trip to Salt Lake City, Utah, to go to the Comic-Con to do a documentary, also to do our live stream about it, and then now today we are recapping our experience. So and so I'm just going to sit here because I think the lighting is pretty, right? Okay, so what we did realize by going to Salt Lake City, Utah, was that it was a city that was, or a state that is heavily, heavily influenced by the Mormon religion. And we also discovered that even in their architecture and some of the artwork that are around some of the federal buildings there had Freemason symbolism. So I had gone to Salt Lake City many times, wasn't really aware of what the symbolism looked like, or even so much about the Freemasons, but now I do. And so going there and experiencing, we just want to let you know our story about what it was like to have it happen, and also to be a part of Comic-Con, which is also a part of superhero characters and things that are part of the military-industrial complex, and the manipulation of the agenda of the city in which this was actually really happening in. So that being said, one thing is I want to ask Kevin as we go along, you actually had quite an experience one night where after we did a comedy show and we drank a little bit and stuff like that, and I needed to go to bed, but Kevin was up all night walking all over the city.
Yes.
And that experience, there were three of you that discovered and had some symbolism.
Yeah.
And as well as an experience. So what happened?
It was just very awkward. We started off just walking through the city, and trying to find different things, and just kind of going through and looking at, everything. We realized very quickly was owned by the LDS, was owned by the church. The whole city, a lot of the buildings were temples, a lot of them were gated, which I thought was a little awkward too. Being from Portland, most churches are open at any hour. You can just walk right into a church. And it doesn't matter. These were gated, security. You couldn't even get near the front doors, which I thought was awkward. But what struck me the most weird was the architecture.
Yes.
Architecture was just amazing, like things I had never even seen, and things that were engraved into walls that had dates on them from the 1800s. So you knew this stuff had been there longer than longer than the pavement I was standing on. This wall had been there. And that to me was just amazing. And then I started looking at who was signing these things. You had signs like Brigham Young. There were people, I don't know if you guys know anything about history, but these aren't Mormons. These are Masons.
Yeah.
These are Masons. These are people who built
so is
stuff.
Joseph Smith.
There was no golden plate that hit him in the head. I think that's a crossbeam that came down from the fucking whatever building they were. It's like it's like Walmart. Watch for falling prices. No, that was a crossbeam. That's what, Joseph Smith didn't come up with the golden plate. He came up with the hard hat. That's why the guy who's in charge wears the blue one. I don't know if that's even true. I think it's the white hat.
It's the white hat.
It's the white hat. Well, if they were smart, it'd be the gold one.
Well,
They just didn't want you to catch on.
It was interesting how when we first got into the bus, and I looked up, and and we were getting ready to walk towards the convention center, and there was the Mormon church with the little gold guy on top of it, and then right next to it you look at another area up above it, and there's a building that actually obviously has a pyramid on top of it, and that's when I got out of I was like, oh shit, oh my god, I didn't realize this, And that's when I started to put two and two together, that there was possibly a combination between the religion and Freemason. And as we were walking into the convention center, I thought to myself, I wonder if that's true. And then I saw one of the comic characters, one of the first people dressed up supposedly like a comic character, was wearing like a Nazi jacket and like, what is it, an eyed wide shut mask on it. And I'm like, I wonder what character he is. And I'm thinking, and this is what gets me about Comic Con. It's like I'm like, really? I go, you're wearing a Nazi uniform. Like, what character did this come from? I'm just kind of wondering if it's something that allows people to just feel comfortable in creating some sort of superhero character, or just being able to wear something that they actually really stand behind, just in this guise of that it's a comic.
Well, I thought
character.
the most interesting part of Salt Lake City was going to Walmart.
Really?
I thought
See, no, I didn't go
Walmart.
into Walmart.
I thought Walmart was weird going, because I've traveled all over the country, and obviously Walmart's a spot where you stop. It's easy to quick shop. It's open 24 hours. You can park your RVs there, whatever. Well, I went in this Walmart, and this was the first Walmart where I didn't see corporate stuff for sale. I mean, they had Doritos and they had Coca-Cola, but I didn't see Heinz ketchup. Instead, I saw ketchup.
is owned by Mormons.
I saw ketchup.
Wait, and Summer is actually filming us. She's
Coca-Cola is
behind the camera.
owned by Mormons?
Coca-Cola's
So Coca-Cola's owned by the LDS, which
Okay.
so that makes sense. Doritos, Coca-Cola, Taco Bell's like
No, but they have their own food that's made
by
the church.
It's
They have
made-
their own land,
yeah, they
their
had-
own livestock, their own chickens,
they had
cows,
their own
everything.
food. They
All
had
of
their
the
own
food
distribution.
That was coming out there was
Only to Utah.
Deseret Foods.
Deseret Foods.
And it's owned by the LDS, which I think is pretty interesting. I've been in, me and Kevin both being in the door-to-door sales and whatnot. We've been to close to every state in the mainland here. Yeah. And him with Hawaii too, but
doesn't exist.
But that doesn't exist anywhere else. This place has their own. That everybody gets their milk delivered.
They had their milk delivered.
Everybody gets their
by
own
the
milk
church,
delivered.
paid for by the church.
Delivered by the church.
Butter is
really strange.
Your dairy is delivered. That's what I'm saying. Your dairy was delivered to your front door by the church.
And
when they went shopping, their choices. They didn't have ketchup. They had catsup.
I saw
CATSUP, Deseret Foods. It was made, everything was done by this weird food company that was local to Utah. And even if it wasn't, let's say if you were Heinz, you probably had to sell your ketchup to these factories that put it in these other bottles and then called it their own and then redistribute it. That's how they made their money. So even the people there aren't purchasing anything from a distributor. They're paying the church even when they're buying their food.
Their tithing's going towards
their
food
I
too.
saw a building that said Deseret. Wasn't there a
Deseret
News?
It was their news company.
Yeah.
And then what was what was connected to it? The 2 news stations, the television stations.
Well, there was also a symbol that you said you saw in a circle, and actually Tabitha, who is Alex's wife, took pictures. We'll include these photos when we finally edit everything together. But she took a picture of a circle that had a certain kind of energy coming from it when you stood in the center of it. There's a symbol on that circle that was the same symbol that was on the catsup bottle.
Yeah.
Or was it for Deseret? Was it Deseret?
Yeah, it's on everything.
It's the state symbol.
It's on
the beehive.
It's a beehive.
It's a beehive that's 8.
It's 8 by 11. It's 8. It goes up 8 and it has 11 blocks across.
The beehive, I think, is symbolic. There's a couple things. One, it's of the queen bee and the structure of the worker down of it. I think that symbol is definitely has ancient basis to it.
Well, obviously. I mean, it's been there, and this wasn't put there by the people, by these Mormons. This was put there by the Masons because it's in their walls. It's in their designs that have been there since the 1800s, before Joseph got hit in the plate with the head.
And that's another thing that Tab was taking pictures of, was the amount of Masonic placards and medals that people have on their cars.
Oh yeah.
It's almost as if it's almost a prerequisite to actually being a Mormon that the males end up
becoming
Masons. Because the number of cars that we saw with these Freemason symbols on there was
right.
astounding. I've never seen it.
I assume so many of them represent the different levels. So
Right,
I
yeah.
assume these placards, because you would see these, and then they would go on and on.
And you'd see
And the
8
more
of
you
them,
had,
or
almost
you'd
like
see
a
5
general
of
in the
them, or you'd see-
military,
yeah.
the more you had, the higher
The
up
higher
the
up,
levels you
the
were.
levels you were, yeah.
Which would probably mean the higher up you were in the Mormon church in hierarchy as well.
One thing that I want to get back to is that circle, the circle that you were,
Yeah, that was
that
insane.
you, okay, so can you tell the story of you guys walking to there and
Well, so we follow the sidewalks, because we had to follow the sidewalks, because the sidewalks had the imagery in the sidewalks that literally told us where to go.
what kind of how did it
They
play
had
out?
these, like, well, every few steps they'd have like another marker or a placard in them, and they would have the beehive, and depending on how what direction the beehive, kind of pointed in, that'd be the direction we ended up walking, until we ended up in front of this giant temple that they called the temple, and it was all gated and guarded. You couldn't get anywhere near it. But across from it was what looked like this weird convention center. It almost looked like a Franklin Lloyd Wright, because it didn't look like it had any actual curvature or any 90-degree angles. It looked like everything was rounded. And they called it the Boy Scouts of America Center. I can't make that shit up.
Really?
Yeah, and I thought that was just weird on its own. So I was like, okay, but right above the front doors before you walk in, they have this, I don't know what it was. I mean, it was like something that was engraved into the wall. It was put there, but it looked like whatever chunk of wall, it looked like a chunk of wall that had been placed there and then had been smoothed over and been added in. I mean, that was obvious, but whatever this wall was, it was way old. I mean, it had placards on there from the 1800s. It had stuff on there signed by Brigham Young. Had all this, had state seals from the state that they had from like 1849. It was just really weird. And it was this big circle, and at the top of the circle, it starts with like an angel and somebody bowing to the angel, but then it takes two different directions. To the right, it goes off in the beehive symbol, right over here, and then it shows like almost like an Arabic or Russian style architecture, like their temples almost. And then it goes down, and it shows like a guy and a girl being married. This is all on the right hand side. And then it shows that guy and a girl standing in a doorway holding a baby with two other people looking at them. And then it goes on and it shows like people standing in front of kids teaching them, like they're like in a classroom. And then it goes on to show all these other weird buildings. And then it goes on to show like what looks like a tree of life down in the bottom of the corner where it shows. And that's the real interesting part, because it shows the tree, but then it shows these pyramids underneath the tree, and then it shows water underneath the pyramids. Well, where the root of the tree comes, to the left of it, you have the pyramids, right? And to the left of that, on that side of the tree, it shows somebody falling out of the tree, like it shows a person falling out of the tree. Then to the right-hand side of it, on the branch, it shows somebody standing on the branch, or like hanging from the branch, like a fruit growing. And then it shows somebody underneath them, holding their hands out like they're going to catch that fruit. But the awkward part is on the right-hand side, where that person's going to catch that fruit, there's no more pyramids. But it shows the water keep flowing. Then you go to the left. And on the left side, where the star, where it was the beehive, right, which was the star, it shows a pentagram.
Oh,
There's a pentagram.
interesting.
And then there, right next to the pentagram, is a church. It is a classic Christianic church, like the building, the squared, I mean, everything, just a cross. It's a church. And then underneath it, it shows pilgrims. It shows mountains, people in covered wagons, people carrying an ox, people planting seeds. And then underneath that, it shows like colonies, like houses, villages, like a city being built. And then underneath that, it shows like a guy in a colonial suit standing over an Indian. And then what did it say? Something about sharing, not sharing, but what was the word? Oh man, something about sharing being wisdom or something, or
Oh, wisdom, knowledge is faith, or faith.
no, that was one of them. But there's the other one that says something like sharing is something, and I was thinking that's really awkward to sit there while you got this colonial guy standing over an Indian, because that really didn't work out so well for the Indians, did it?
No.
So I was like, that's weird. And then it goes into a Brigham Young quote on the bottom, right? And then it goes into a Brigham Young quote on the bottom, and then it was over. And then, and so then in the middle, that's not true. Then in the middle, underneath where you had the person praying to the angel, you had a bunch of guys standing around what looked like a table saw. Literally, looks like a table saw, like something you'd have, with a bunch of guys standing around watching one other guy writing a book. And then around that, everything was written in Egyptian, so I have no idea what it said, but it was weird that they had Egyptian. And then down the right-hand side where that is, it's in Japanese. Which I thought was really weird. And then at the bottom of that, there's another inscription. Shows a bunch of guys standing around a fireplace, like reading something. It almost looks like the same picture of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. It's almost what it looks like. I mean, that's what it reminded me of, exactly. But underneath that, it gives this script and this quote that came from Brigham Young, and it said something like, even though we as man acknowledge there is a God, we are going to continue to go on and build and make marvelous and wonderful things. That's all it says. So it basically says that they acknowledge the presence of a higher power, but they know that there's nothing we can do, so we're just going to go on and build, until we can. That's what I mean. I don't even know. I was stuck on it for 45 minutes. Of course, I was drunk and high and just stupid in Salt Lake City. It was kind of fun, but
well, for being
That was
drunk and
a
high,
blast.
you remember quite a bit.
well, yeah, I remember the whole thing. I sat there and stared at it for 45 minutes. It's engraved.
You've got a good brain, Kevin.
Well, thank you.
So like, and I think is that a good angle? Can we should we be closer maybe a little bit?
I have been going closer
Okay,
to
alright,
it, but it's
sorry.
all about the same light. Doesn't.
Okay. There was the circle. Can we talk about like maybe the?
That's what you wanted to talk about was the circle.
The circle.
That was
I'm
the
fascinated
thing
about that circle and why is there energy in that circle?
Oh, the one
When
for
you
that
stood
building.
at it, you said you felt this energy,
Wow.
and then Joshua had a moment.
Well,
I
it
don't
had
really
okay.
tell
So there's
about Joshua's
yeah.
moment,
So there's this
but,
circle,
Uh-huh.
and it's put in it's engraved, and it tells you it's from like 1840, and it's got that same beehive symbol, but it's crooked. Like so, you're facing this circle like this, but the beehive thing was crooked, which I thought was weird. And then I started noticing there's like a circle around it that was all titanium plates. And I was like, that's weird. But so we walked to the circle. So when you stand in that circle, you can tell that there's some sort of energy, but you really can't do anything. But you follow the beehive. So when you turn in the direction that crooked beehive is facing, so you turn and you face that, you realize that you're facing this building, right? And it's completely black and it's inverted at like a 90-degree angle, and you're in the V, like in the center of the V. And the way that the light shines through it, it only gives you one option. You can't see to your left because of the way the V is shaped. You can't see to your left, you can't see to your right. The only thing you can see is directly in front of you, and you're staring at straight black, unless you look up. So your only option, and your natural option when you stand there and you look, it's a feat in architecture, because I think whoever put it there did that for that purpose. Because when you stand and you turn in that direction, the only thing you can do is look. Your natural reaction is to look up, and when you look up this giant building that's shaped in this V, so you're inward, looking up, and then this tower, and it pointed directly to the North Star. So it was very fucking awkward. But you could feel that when you look up, you felt this energy instantly. And it was just awkward. And as soon as you broke, you broke. Well, we had Josh, somebody who was with us, go hop in the circle, because he was the doubter. You have to take the guy who doesn't believe anything, who doesn't want to believe anything, he doubts. So we have him. He gets there, and he turns, and he's doing it, and he's like, I don't feel anything, I don't feel anything. And he's like, if this is a religious experience, God, say something, strike me down. If there's a God, do something. And he's just screaming this. And
Prove yourself to me.
Yeah, prove yourself to me. We're in the middle of downtown Salt Lake City, literally downtown.
At 4 in the morning.
At 4 in the morning, and he's screaming at the top of his lungs. And out of nowhere, a homeless man appears out of fucking nowhere and just goes, excuse me, but I don't think you should use the Lord's name in vain. And right then, Josh turned, and like I saw the flash, like just snap. He went violent. Tried to pick a fight with the bum. Who are you? Fuck you! Don't talk to me. I don't need your shit right now. And I watched that energy wash over him, and take control of him, and then just attack. But I thought it was really weird because he sat there asking Jesus for a sign. God, prove yourself to me. Do something. And a homeless man appears out of nowhere and says, you really shouldn't use the Lord's name. I mean, reminds me of that old joke, the guy with the floods,
Yeah.
The first boat comes, he doesn't take it because Jesus is going to save him. The second boat comes, he doesn't take it because Jesus is going to save him. Finally, the water's up to his neck. The third boat comes, he doesn't take it because Jesus is going to save him. He dies. He gets to fucking heaven, gets to the pearly gates. He meets Jesus, and he asks Jesus, why didn't you save me? And Jesus said, I sent 3 boats. What more do you want me to do?
But That's
Let up,
you know.
bud.
I mean,
It reminds me of that same thing.
Well,
It's like you asked for it, you got it. What more of a sign do you need? Did he need to come and fucking put it in Crayola on your forehead?
well,
Like for real?
unless a demon conjured up and went, and that wants you to believe in like a false deity that maybe they are actually
Well,
supporting.
see, here my whole problem with demons and angels is you can't believe in one without the other.
Right. Well,
Right.
here's what I think is I studied today a little bit because I did a little research on the Mormon religion and their also because of the fact that we were talking about like I was surprised that there was such a Freemason connection to them. So I got real curious and I started to think about the Anunnaki, which is a alien race that apparently I also created life according to like the Mormons, basically. I mean, because there is
according to a lot of testaments.
okay,
It's a Sumerian.
but,
It's a Sumerian.
It's Sumerian text.
So who's to say that there isn't, if we talk about light and dark energies and people that are wanting, if there's a religion that's trying to suppress you, I'm just putting out there, who's to say that we don't, a dark energy can make themselves look like a light energy, without, like, you would think it's a child, but it's not a child maybe, or something, like it's a homeless person, homeless people, not saying in a bad way, but, it affects us on an emotional level, on all different levels, fear, anxiety, shame, rejection, sympathy, empathy, wanting to help, bleeding heart, also a lot of times in movies, we see the homeless person playing the prophet, like channeling something that's of like maybe a higher energy or something like that. So I don't know. I'm just saying that maybe it's not like it wasn't like God saying you need to believe in Jesus.
Well, no, you don't have to believe in it. I just thought it was I just thought it was funny that he sat there and asked for a sign,
and
a sign came, and then he instantly wanted to attack it. Like it was him. It was what I found interesting was how he handled the energy that he received. And I thought that to be the more interesting part of it all was he got washed with the energy.
Too bad we weren't filming you at the place.
I wish we were filming that.
There's something else that I kind of I had some I researched a little bit, or I was watching Project Camelot, which is by a woman named Carrie Cassidy. She has a show, and I haven't finished the whole thing yet. But there is this thing about water. There's this guy kept talking about water and how maybe the Knights Templars looked for, like, part of their quest was water, because water is a conduit, is an energy source, and whenever there's two water lines that cross over, like the cross, which is the he said the cross is actually symbolic. There's a power vortex there that can be harnessed for either control energy, positive energy, or negative energy. The energy itself doesn't really have any good or bad to it. It's depending on the intensity is behind it, and they build structures to harness this energy.
Otherwise
and
known
it's
as
all
arcs.
we're kind of talking about like you talk about like architecture. Maybe that's like part of what the Freemasons know. Some of their knowledge is they know how to create architecture.
I never thought about that. The word arc is in architecture.
That creates arc is in architecture.
Yeah.
That creates a vortex, and so maybe you stood there, and the North Star. What is symbolic of the North Star? Does anybody know what that means, or what is it? A planet?
No,
is
the
it,
North Star comes from the constel. I can't remember which constellation it is though. It's a group of planets.
It is a group of planets. However, supposedly
It's not
in biblical reference, it's the star that the three wise men followed to find fucking Mary.
It's the Star of David.
So it's the Star of David, which is the the pentagram basically.
Well, funny thing. Right.
So is that connected to Sirius?
Well, according
There
to
we go. That's what.
Is it Sirius? So here's the thing. I read today that Sirius B is possibly where Alderon, it's connected to the Anunnaki, and that, which is also the agenda of the Third Reich. Which kind of makes sense to me, that there was a comic character, or more than one comic character, or people dressed up as, where part of their outfit looked rather Nazi regime to me.
Well, it's kind of big in the comic book world, anyways.
Is it? But why?
The villains.
Okay.
Because
the
most of the
villains
and most of the
back
bad
then
guys,
were Nazis.
especially in comic books, were Nazis. Especially when comic books first came out, when they started using
Back in the
pictures,
30s
that
and
was during the war. So a lot of the villains were always
Well, look
were
at Captain
always
America. Who's Captain America's
yeah, is Russian.
arch enemy?
Yeah.
Is this
Red
Red
Skull
Skull guy
Russian.
that's the octopus.
Uh huh.
But he was a, a section of the Nazi
Yeah, party.
party. He was
Right.
like the SS, or
That's
the
why they're villains.
so
They're
they're usually bad guys
yes.
in comic books.
Very rarely did that you find Russian good guys. Marvel, I think, started that with like Colossus.
I think
Colossus
Colossus
was
was
like
one
one
of
of
the
the first
first.
ones. Yeah, he was like the Man of Steel, but the Russian Man of Steel, but he was a good guy.
No,
So Comic Con was quite a success in Salt Lake City, and
It was
it
huge.
was insane.
it was huge. Like I would like, were they surprised? Do you think the people that put it together
I
was there a
think.
big
Well,
surprise
I
that there
think
was?
they knew. Well, I mean, they started at a much smaller venue, and they had sold tickets so fast that they knew
So
that
would
they
you
had
sit down? I wonder if you sat down, would that be more comfortable?
they had to know that they had to get a bigger venue. So they went into the convention center, but they sold that out for 3 days too. So that was just but they sell tickets. Like Denver sold out all their tickets,
Uh huh.
but their max amount of people they had was 45,000 on their best day. We had that on Thursday when we were only open for 3 hours. We had over 65,000, and we had well over 100,000 Saturday. So we smashed Denver. We had one of the biggest Comic Cons in the country this year outside of San Francisco,
no, Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City.
I found it to be really interesting, the Comic Con. I'm not, this was kind of a new experience. I'm not like told. I'm not really I'm not knowledgeable of that world really, and I'm not a fan of animation. In terms of my own entertainment, I know it's weird, but so I kind of went in with like these, a fresh eye on everything. It was fascinating to me to see people be so into characters and wanting to dress up like them and making up their own superheroes, and how, especially some of the things that are of a paranormal, quality, or like Star Trek, or things that are like, or meaning like other universes and extra human
Doctor Who.
capabilities, time traveling.
Doctor Who.
I mean, I loved all that aspect of it because, like, now I've been having like an interest of it in it. But I've been wondering about what has been the Hollywood and the powers that be's manipulation of it to kind of what do you call it? Socially engineer our society. And one of the things that I found interesting about when I say going home after being in Salt Lake City, I say to I feel like it was a very socially engineered city and Utah, and state, in the way that people interacted between one another, as well as their belief system
Well, I didn't
was kind
find a
of.
separation between church and state. It was very. It seemed to me it was like the first place I had ever been to where
Uh-huh.
there was no separation between church and
Yeah.
state. The church was the
Me
state. The
too.
And
state was
Yeah.
the
everyone
church.
felt
Yeah.
comfortable being watched. They all felt as if they were being watched.
Yeah. I
Everybody
had the
talked
feeling
under
of
their
being
breath
watched
about
there.
things. There was like this. It was always the feeling like you were being watched, but they were okay with it. That's what really bugged me. That's what got my goat the most out of the whole experience. There was
Nobody wanted to buck this. Nobody wanted to like
nobody was up
rise
for
up
bucking
against.
the system. They
Nobody
were
wanted to.
used to it.
They were
That was
used to
just
it.
the
They were
way it
conditioned to it,
was.
or they just enjoyed it. Like some of them liked it. I think like they liked the fact that they were under control, that they didn't have to make decisions for themselves. They were
True.
preconditioned to it.
True.
You saw the federal building,
Yeah,
yeah,
no.
and
William F. Bennett.
that had a lot of what
Cameras,
cameras.
weird cameras. I mean,
Uh-huh.
well, the whole city. Like once we went by the federal building, we realized the whole city was under camera, CCTV everywhere, everywhere in that city. The whole city was under camera. They were watching us roam that city drunk at 4 in the morning. They were watching us do it, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Huh. And at the Comic-Con, there was now people were missing.
Yeah, children went missing. Children went missing the first day, like 3 or 4 kids went missing. The second day, like 6 or 7, and then like the last day, like 12 kids went missing, and not just kids, like 3 or 4 adults throughout the Comic Con went missing. So it was really weird. I mean, total, I mean, there had to be about 30 people that went missing over the course of 3 days through the Salt Lake City Comic Con.
Yeah.
And that was awkward. But it wasn't just people. Okay, so like my cousin Doug, he's walking around, and in the middle they find this empty hallway, and they find a walker, like a stroller, with a baby in it, and no one around. They waited for 10 minutes. No one showed up. They finally took that baby and that stroller to information to the desk so they could PA for the parents. But somebody left that kid in that stroller right there.
Then
So,
left,
like, was it so much that people, like, these kids were going missing, or were they getting dumped?
right? That was weird.
I mean, you got to think about it that way. Were they actually going missing, or were they being dumped? I mean, this is Mormonville, where they have, like, 20, 30 kids per,
Well, I mean, what are you alluding to? That they just went like, oh,
Yeah,
well,
like took them to
Yeah.
like, here, I'm taking you to Comic Con, go play, and then they hop in their car and drive off and left them there.
Abortion's against their religion.
Yeah.
but they want to get rid of a couple.
Yeah.
Like, here, go ahead and take
Right,
it.
that's a couple less Happy Meals you gotta buy when you go through fucking drive through McDonald's.
She pissed me off today. Here,
Right, yeah,
Here,
exactly.
I'll get you in your little costume.
Right. Oh, you want to sin? Go hang out with the rest of the sinners at Comic Con.
Right? Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
It's just that's really that's.
I have a hard time believing that they were trying to take kids when they were trying to get rid of them.
Yeah, burlap sacks are hard to find nowadays.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But a couple of passes were easy to come by.
that was another thing that amazed me is how easy it was.
Wow,
for,
how about security at that place,
Yeah.
right? Like if
you know, we walked
after
in.
we
walked into Comic Con
with people
and got 7 press passes. With
no questions asked.
No ID, no questions. All we had to do was just be authoritative. You walk up there with a no bullshit attitude. You say, "Hey, you hired us," and they go, "Oh, well, here." I mean, it was that easy.
Yeah, but this was after we tried to piss off Lou Ferrigno and got him with security guards too.
Well, yeah.
Like they should have been like, if these guys come to the press booth, don't give them shit.
Yeah. Because we did kind of jump on Lou Ferrigno.
The second we walked in, he was right
there.
there.
His handlers like take off in different directions.
Leave him right in front of
beeline straight to him. It was amazing. But we could see that the security guard had about 4 times as much ground to cover as we did, and he saw us at the same time that we saw Lou Ferrigno. So
it was the weird triangle. But we had shorter distance to cover, so we got it. And we got a few words in before Lou was trying to, I think, turn on his hearing aid or like or figure out what the fuck was going on. Handlers and then security got us.
Yeah.
Pointed us in the right direction to what table we can get our press passes and come back and harass Mr. Ferrigno.
What is there from your experience about the Comic Con? What did it look like to you?
It looked like a Comic Con. I mean, it looked pretty good. I mean, to be honest, it looked like one of the weakest Comic Cons I've ever seen as far as booths and stuff that they had as vendors and booths. I mean, they didn't have a lot of artists. Period.
No.
Wasn't a lot of artists. A lot of them were local businesses.
And the ones they did have were.
And the ones they did have were okay, but they weren't that great. So they didn't have a lot of artists, and a lot of people go to that thing for artists. They spent a lot of time focusing on their panels, and then the problem is a lot of the people that people wanted to see in the panels didn't even do their panels because they had them doing so many other things at the Comic Con because they had relied on their bankability to sell the tickets to the Comic Con that they had overdone these people. Like, so they were told that they had to do this, this, and this, and this, and by the time that they got to this, they were like, screw it. I'm not doing that. I'm tired. They were tired. I mean, so they wouldn't do it. So a lot of those panels didn't even work out. So that, and that's kind of the catch-22 with Comic Cons. Is you got people who go to them for the panels, and then you got people who go to them for the event, the meet and greets, meeting the artists, the buying stuff, all that sort of stuff. And so there lies that separation there. I thought it was really weird they tried to do it mix a film festival in with it too.
Yeah.
Because nobody went to those film festivals and saw those films.
I saw one.
Did you? And how many other people were there?
The reason, there was quite a few people in there actually. It was called, the reason why I went is called the Shadow Cabal, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe they're doing that here. And I went in, but it wasn't at all. It was a fantasy, elf slayer slasher, movie. I was like, this is a different kind of cabal. And I left.
Most people laugh most of those movies.
But it was pretty well done. I mean, it wasn't. It was also a Kickstarter.
Right. Well, all of them were short
which
independent
is
films. That was the
interesting.
idea. They were all short independent films. That was the idea of that film festival. But I just found it really awkward, how they tried to tie it in, and then how they had, my whole point is if you're going to do that, you've got to have better organization. Yeah. You can't have like Stan Lee going in the main room to do a panel at 7:00 while you're showing their main film at 7:00. It really was really horrible.
Well, you could really tell it was their first attempt.
Yeah, you could tell it was different, and they really just kind of threw it together and were running around with, because I made it into the green room. I don't know about anybody else, but I went and got a massage that day that I was all hungover. The night after we had the show and partied, the next day, the last day at Comic-Con, I walked right into the green room like I was supposed to be there. And, they didn't say a word to me.
No, nobody told me to get out of anything. Excuse me, you can't be here.
They had a guy out front.
They treated us like gold with those press passes.
Yeah, those press passes were
the press passes are fun.
In the green room,
I just go.
In the green room, I went in and they had Chinese food and massage tables. So I sat down at one of the massage tables and just sat there and put my head in the pillow.
What green room are you at? I didn't know.
254.
All the stars were there.
It was all the stars were hanging out in this room. Like, you know where that side thing was? You know where that guy
And there were 2 security outside
standing in front.
I didn't get into that.
You know where the
I didn't know that existed.
Yeah, because you know where you guys were, right here where the press room was, right across that hallway where that Chinese guy had that set up, had the Danny Trejo thing, and that escalator went down.
Yeah.
If you didn't go down the escalator and you walked right there, that next room right there on the left hand side, on the other side, they had mad security standing in front. That's why people were lined up in front of the bathrooms right there, waiting to see people come in and out of there, because that's where they all were.
That's why everybody was sitting
I
in the
discovered
hallway
it.
there.
We discovered it on day 2, but I had tried to go in and they wouldn't let me in.
Even with the press pass.
Even with the press pass, they had a list. They're like, nope, you needed the special guest passes. That looked almost like the VIP passes, the same color, but they said special guest. So they weren't letting press in there. But on the 3rd day, I just told whatever guy was in there, I just looked at him and said, "Put," and he was trying to stop me, and I just kind of laughed at him and walked right by him and opened the door and shut the door behind me, and no one chased in after me. So I walked in, I sat down, I put my head in a pillow, next thing you know, I got myself a massage. I didn't get to meet anybody famous, but I got a massage at Comic-Con. Salt Lake City, 2012. I need a T-shirt.
13.
13, fuck it, whatever year it is. 12, 13, it was like it was a Twilight time warp for all I know. We lost an hour, gained an hour.
2013.
We lost an hour, gained an hour. We really went through some sort of time warp.
Who knows? It was weird. I mean, one thing I want to bring up too is we did a show that on the Friday that we were there at Lumpy's, which was downtown, and it was a sports bar.
Nice people there.
Nice people.
Work there.
Yeah.
We love everybody at Lumpy's that works there.
Yeah. So.
Pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Establishment was great.
But that was an interesting experience.
The crowd and the people's another
especially,
story.
yeah. So.
Wee Man was drunk and begged for us to do jokes and put him in the show. Yeah. And the second you put him in the show, he got all pissy about it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean the little dwarf guy?
Yeah, the dwarf. Yeah, the Wee Man.
There was a guy, Will, it was his name, wasn't it Will?
William, yeah.
He was a dwarf, and he was sitting up at the bar next to me, and he said, do you make fun of little people? I was like, oh my God, no, I mean, that's gotta be insulting, and then he was like, no, I really wish you would make fun of me.
Yeah.
And I go, sure, if you would make fun of you, I'll make fun of you, and everything, and so.
He said, just don't call me a midget.
Yeah, he goes, just don't call me a midget.
Little people.
Yeah, and so I thought he was having a good time.
No, he got pissy about it.
He got pissy when you asked if you could hold his dick.
Did I say that? I forgot about that part.
Did I say that? I'm smoking pot in Salt Lake City. I just said cunt in Salt Lake City. Let me see your dick. You're getting laid after the show. Oh yeah, I'm a slut from way back.
I've never fucked a little person before.
I never fucked a little person before. Although I did blow one in this clown circus movie.
Oh my God. God, I must have been like.
That was a great night.
Oh, we had
The
fun.
wings were good too.
Yeah, they had great wings. Rob sauce.
Well, here's the deal. I mean, like, I didn't know. I had to compete with freaking the sports behind me. There were there was the
Those
sports
big
right,
screen
the big
TVs.
huge screen TVs of like football. If I was, I go, the only way I'm gonna get their attention is to talk about pussy. That's the only thing that's gonna happen. Like, right? And I mean, I was like. Anyway, you know, so
And they got attention.
and the guy said the guy said, well, yeah, I mean, okay, the owner said, well, what's your act like? And I go, well, it's you know, mostly about like sex and politics. And he goes, oh yeah, it's okay here, you're free, you know, we like it dirty. And I go, great, you know. So I mean, yeah. Apparently, I was offensive, but you know what? It's not the first time I've done that in Utah. You know. But people seem to like us. Like we got lots of drinks afterwards, and you know, like it didn't seem like anybody like who was there who liked it didn't seem pissed.
No, they, you know, I think the people had a good time. I mean, I think I was the only one who got bitched at for being too vulgar, and I didn't.
What was it?
Yeah. So okay. So wait.
By a stormtrooper.
So it's like this. I get off stage and I bring Bob up. Bob's up. I go outside to like, you know, catch my breath and relax. Like, hey, that's the first, you know, 5 minutes I've done on stage in well over a year. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll go outside and have a cigarette. And this guy comes out with, you know, his girlfriend or whatever, and just starts chastising me, telling me how horrible I am because I'm too vulgar, and that they have to go find somewhere else to eat and drink now because I'm too vulgar. And the whole time I'm thinking, wow, this is the fucking most intelligent thing I've ever heard from a grown-ass man dressed as a stormtrooper. Coming out of a sports bar, nonetheless.
Yeah, he didn't film a movie.
He did, yeah. Like, this guy wasn't like, you know, this guy wasn't in the new Star Wars episodes coming out. This guy was a guy. This was a 40-year-old man coming out the convention center for the Comic-Con to went into a sports bar and heard a joke that I didn't even curse in. All I said was we ordered a couple of Boston Bombers, and they said, "What's that?" And I said, "You know, a couple of White Russians." Ooh, that was so vulgar. I made the stormtrooper walk. You know what? Go get back on your fucking Death Star where you belong. I sent Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda to come kick your ass. Like, for real, this guy was just a douche.
Oh, I thought I was surprised you didn't snap on him.
Well, I couldn't snap on him because he was dressed as a... I was trying to, like, go... At first, I was
He's
like...
got body armor on.
At
What are you
first, I was
gonna
like,
do?
can I kick through this plastic? Does it hurt? And then it was like, this is a bucket list item. Like, I have officially... I just fucking got bit. I just basically got arrested by a stormtrooper.
Heckled by a stormtrooper.
This is a Star Wars fantasy. I wasn't sure whether I should be mad or come in my pants.
But you couldn't see his face, right? He was like.
No, he had the mask on.
Like,
He was
you
holding.
really offend me.
No, he was holding the mask in his hand, but he had
You
all
should have said.
the shoulder plate, the whole
okay.
Should have said.
boots.
I guess
the
he
whole
had to do
thing.
that to drink his beer, right?
This
Yeah,
is not
Like-
the dude you're looking for.
Yeah, right. Like,
That'd be fun if you went. You really.
I should have just gone like this. I should have just gone. It just like what a guy. Like for real. Like I was like, really? That made my whole night though. I was like, shit. I should get back into comedy. I just did 5 minutes and walked out of bar and got told I was vulgar by a stormtrooper. I'm going places.
So I don't know how long you want this, but it's at
I'm
45 minutes.
going places.
We're okay still. How's the battery? Is it the more thing is as long as we get the battery going, it's okay.
No, it's fine. It's still working.
So,
that was interesting.
Yeah, that was interesting. You know, it's not my first time that I performed in Salt Lake City, Utah, or Utah at all. Salt Lake City is a little bit more progressive, especially in terms of their alcohol laws, and you can get away with a lot more in terms on stage than you would, like, say, Provo, Utah. You know, I've been going to Utah since. Well, actually, I've been going to Utah since 1980. 80 something.
We'll fix that in post.
Okay. Well, it was high school. It wasn't just a stand up. It was high school. You know, you know, there was our choir went to the Mormon Tabernacle Church to sing there, which I don't even know why we did that. And we took this trip, and I was actually too sick to go that night to sing in the Mormon Tabernacle, but I do remember, you know, that was weird that we had to, like, we saw a stage production where we had to do a prayer before the show, and I'm like, really, like, this is weird. And so I remember being 17 and going, that's not normal. And even then, I had it, I was going, wait a second. And I remember that there was these T-shirts that said, the kids we all bought, that said, "Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you may be in Utah." And I thought that was hilarious because it was just really a boring night. No, but I don't know. I think that there's some of us we go to Utah and we have to do something really rebellious because it is like so constricting. That's like I think my nature even back then because I was with like a couple of my girlfriends and we were all like staying in one room and like we like took a picture of the phone book and lit it on fire and I took pictures of it and my friend like we made like we tied sheets together and put up on the top roof just so she could climb so Melanie Bruno could climb up to the to the guys and we took pictures and we were like all of the honor students and then like we were supposedly the good girls and so they would tell me they go, "Terry, when the door knocks you have to answer it and tell them that and be the front man because like you're innocent, like you don't look like you do anything wrong." So I that was my role was to what and kind of like I don't know how that happened and I don't know these guys. No, I didn't do that, but
Right. All right.
I didn't know anything about this. But in Salt Lake, like even I feel like doing stand up, it's like I can't help it, but it was like I was like part of myself just goes, "Fuck you! I'll say whatever the fuck I want." Like I had that little voice that just won't stop. It's like Tourette's syndrome happens,
Yeah.
and so any shocking subject matter that I could say and get away with is the goal for me. And then it's kind of like, "Thank you, good night," and then that's it. You leave.
Right. That was
I don't
weird.
know.
It's weird.
It's always uncomfortable there. I never feel good there.
Right.
I always feel that that it's not a place that I'm gonna feel embraced in. So it's almost like you've got your gloves
Constantly
on.
judged.
You're
You're
just
constantly
going,
being judged.
yeah,
Yep.
it's like, well, no matter what I say, I can't even get a decent cup of coffee here, let alone like be able to make you like me and laugh. I mean, like, oh, we accept you don't drink caffeine, we don't relate.
No,
It's
no.
just like.
Yeah, there wasn't any Starbucks.
No, there was no Starbucks.
We saw
There wasn't
one
any-
espresso
There was
stand.
no Starbucks.
We saw one espresso stand in like 80 miles.
Yeah.
It
You
was
had to go to the
just,
truck stops.
yeah.
Literally, that's why they had truck stops everywhere.
And the truck stops had coffee, but there wasn't espresso. There wasn't espresso anywhere.
Espresso
There was
is
one
like-
What the hell's a
espresso.
mocha
Cash.
macchiato, whatever? They don't know what the hell that shit is.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't even know what hash was. They thought we were trying to give them heroin.
I asked for coffee, and they give me a glass, a cup, hot water, and instant coffee. And it's like, wow, really? We are in different, Twilight Zone.
It was different. And you mentioned about the people, like just in general. Like I felt it felt a little Stepford wife. Like,
Yeah.
to me there.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
what's in the milk?
Even when we
basically,
met the ones that were like bucking the system, that were like against the system, they were still in the system.
Doing it, like,
They were still following the systematic rules, and that weirded me out even more. I'm like, they're like, oh yeah, we're totally against it. Yet then all of a sudden you'd be talking about something completely different, and they'd be like, oh yeah, we got to follow the Mormon, the church. The church tells us how to do it. And I'm like, just 2 seconds ago you were like, fuck the church. What happened?
So, so we talked about how like, it felt like kind of Stepford vibe there, and the environment. So it does definitely feel like socially engineered sometimes. Like it was weird. Anyway, so what are our final thoughts? Does anybody have any final thoughts about what they?
Don't go to Utah.
fuck Utah.
Fuck
I think
Utah.
that's pretty much the consensus
Yeah.
on the whole Utah. Fuck Salt Lake City.
So I can skip it.